this too loud, or can you all hear me? Nobody's ever accused me of being too quiet, so I think we're okay. Well, I want to start off by thanking, thanking you all for coming tonight. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bridget Martin. I'm the Vice President of Commercial Operations at Monroe Capital. And tonight we're just going to give you a brief overview of what's been going on the past year, what we're looking forward to in the upcoming year. So you'll hear from me, and then you'll hear from Gary Robinson and from Paul Adams. And I want to start the evening by thanking Paul. He's the reason that we're all here, and that many of us have had the success we've had in this room is a result of Paul. So just start the night off by him. He hates this, but each year, the number of our investors, our clients, our business associates, and our business itself continues to grow. And yet, the group in here feels like family, and many of you have said that to me. You love this event. It feels like you've known these people. And so I would say that we are very fortunate to be associated with such high quality people. And as I look around the room, you know, I see bankers and accountants, financial advisors, lawyers, borrowers, investors. You all help make this possible. And we have, you know, one of our lawyers came in from North Carolina, one of our brokers came in from New Jersey, a borrower came in from Massachusetts. So, you know, we really appreciate you guys taking the time and coming to this event. And this room is filled with some pretty amazing people. And I would suggest that you use this event to make some connections and to introduce yourselves to each other. Speaking of some amazing people, I really want to acknowledge some of the charitable organizations that work very diligently to make a difference and an impact in our community. Information has been left right on the side table there before you go out the door on the left-hand side. And if you would like to get involved with any of these communities, whether it's financially, through time or talent, I would suggest that you pick up some of the information or chat with some of the people. And I'm just going to ask a couple of the people who are here representing the different organizations just to stand up and wave when I call your name, because there might be other people that want to talk to you, and I see Anna looking at me like, why are you doing that? But Bavona Child Advocacy Center, Anna Potter and Deb Rosen are here from there. From the Boys and Girls Club, Wayne Mahoney, Tiffany Wood, Rebecca Yamel, and Stephanie Oates. From Mary Carriola, Karen Zandy. Is Karen here? There she is. Karen, Linda Henning, and Rob Victor. From the East House, Sarah O'Brien, Karen and Marty Lustig. So thank you all for everything that you do, and everybody really feel free to talk to any of them about more information on what you can do to help out. I also want to now move to the Monroe Capital team. Obviously, you know me now, Gary and Paul. In case you don't know some of the other people that you get emails from or phone calls, I just want to take a moment and have those people stand up that work for Monroe Capital that you might not know, so you can put the name and the face together. Debbie Schneckenberger, so there she is. Gary Becerra, Melanie Gorman, Quinn Sturge, Sarah Montz, she's probably running around, there she is. Jen Blau is Jen, Alex Robinson, Adam Kubiati, Sean Martin, and Heather Wainwright. Heather will be a very new familiar face to everyone because she just started this week, so be extra nice to Heather. As I mentioned earlier, this group really does feel like family, and so I want to take a moment to wish a very special person who happens to be our oldest investor a very happy birthday. So Les Dumas, would you stand up? He is 90 years old today, so big round of applause. We'll embarrass you later with singing and cake, don't worry.
Thank you for throwing a party for me.
So since it's Les's party, I've been instructed to talk about how we make him more money. So, so it starts somewhat with our investors, and Monroe Capital has a few different programs. We have private investors that invest through participation agreements, and we have a private placement that is note sales. And we've done 4 private placements, 3 have been completed, all successfully, and we're on our 4th. The current fund is at $23.8 million, and that is actually a 74.2% growth over our last fund. The last fund paid an average of 9.3%, so people have been pretty happy with this platform. We have currently 83 note holders. This fund matures on December 31st of 2021, and it is similar to the other ones where you get a base of 8% and then additional interest, which is at 20% of the adjusted net income, and that's paid annually. So to give you an idea how the funds have done, you can see here the blue line represents New York Income Partner Fund. So from 2002 through today, you can see if you started with 100,000 and you were with us, you're at 256. So we actually exceeded anything in the stock market or the 10-year treasury over the long term. And even though the stock market has done very well of late, you can see where you have the dips where we're pretty much a steady return. And this slide really highlights it even more for you so that you can see exactly how it goes. The things that we have done a little bit different this year that we've tried to make improvements for you, so those of you that have IRA accounts that were with Equity Trust, which is just for those of you who aren't familiar with that, it's just a self-directed custodian, so you can put your funds in there and you can put it into the New York Income Partners Fund and you receive your interest payments there. And we went ahead and reached out to Equity Trust, and they have an institutional side, and because of the volume of clients that we have, they offered us a special discount, so we have pretty much one-stop service, so it's much easier for our clients, for me to interact with Equity Trust and get the things that you need. I believe about 19% of those that are in the fund are in retirement plans. The other thing we did for those in the fund specifically is created an investor portal. So they can go on at any time once you purchase a note, you get the information back that we share with you, your client login number and your PIN number, and you can go in at any time and see how things are going. So overall with Monroe Capital, the current portfolio is at about 120 million. And investors and note holders participate by commercial real estate loans that are originated by Monroe Capital. So it's really important to understand what Monroe Capital's model is so that you better understand exactly how your money's working for you and the types of deals that we do and what our philosophy is. And the person that can really help explain that is Gary Robinson.
Thank you, Bridget. And speaking of special people and special employees, as always, thank you very much for all you do at Monroe Capital. As most of you in this room really know Bridget probably better than anybody. Monroe Capital, through the years, our model hasn't changed that much. I'm going to move through this fairly quickly because a lot of you have heard this presentation before, but Monroe Capital makes loans strictly to the commercial real estate market in the areas of acquisitions, renovations, bridge loans, mezzanine loans, development loans, consolidation loans. Over the last 20 years, this is a representative slide of the types of properties Monroe Capital has made loans against, from commercial office buildings, medical office buildings, hotels, land development, residential development, industrial and manufacturing. This year I wanted to try and put some metrics to it, just to give everybody an idea of a breakdown on our investments. And as you can see, over the last 20 years, 30.34% of our loans have been for commercial real estate, 16.9% for apartments, going right down to as low as 1.38% for industrial properties. This will give you a pretty good reference as to where our loans are placed. From a loan information standpoint, our loans are all short-term. As most people know, we're a hard asset lender. We loan against commercial real estate. Our loans are structured as short-term loans, interest-only payments, typically from 12 to 24 months. Our loan size is $100,000 to $10 million, and what this chart will give you a pretty good idea about is over the years what our averages have been, and since 2012, our average loan has been $1,593,000. Just to give you an idea of some of the properties and the property types, we were very happy and very proud to be involved in the building you're currently in as one of the lenders that assisted with the acquisition and renovation of the property. Commercial office building in Wilmington, North Carolina, currently occupied by Crestcom Bank. One of our wonderful borrowers and clients from Springfield, Massachusetts, who's here, currently owns an entire city block in Springfield, directly across the street from what is going to be, in about 6 months, the largest casino and hotel complex in New England. I thought I would show a drone photo of an apartment complex we've been involved with and loaned to in Oswego, New York. This is an apartment complex currently under construction, and it's probably only about a half a mile from Lake Ontario. Apartment complex in Chicago that we've been involved with financing construction on. This is kind of unique for us. Some people were surprised, but this is 9 oceanfront lots in North Carolina. And the unique nature of these lots is that on one side they're fronted by the ocean, on the other side they're fronted by the bay. So the lots run from ocean to bay. We were quite interested in this for a few reasons. Number one, because each lot has an average sale price currently of $1.25 million, so very high-end real estate. The other reason being that the additional collateral to secure this loan is very significant. A lot of you have heard of Compass Point development. We've done a lot of business with in Leland, North Carolina. That was some of the additional collateral for this loan. Apartment buildings, just a pretty much basic 4-story apartment building complex in Buffalo. Rochester, New York, another one of our very, very favorite people who owns most of East Avenue from Alexander Street to downtown. Some of the buildings that he owns that we've been involved with for many years from a financing standpoint. Townhouse complex in Leland, North Carolina also. We're currently working with the developer of this complex to develop another 27 townhomes connected to this complex. And this again is in Leland, North Carolina. Our process, just to go over it once again, because in the 21 years of Monroe Capital's life, and close to 21 years that I've been working with and for Paul Adams, our process hasn't changed, all that much. We get a loan request, we gather a lot of information, we have a very thorough due diligence process looking at property information, personal financial statements, real estate owned schedules. If it's a loan that we want to pursue, we issue an application. Once we get our application back with a deposit, within 48 hours, somebody from our office is on site. We do all property inspections ourselves. We don't outsource property inspections. We touch and feel every property that we're going to use as collateral for a loan. Once the inspection is complete, we issue a commitment. Once we receive the commitment back with the deposit for our attorneys, we typically close in less than 30 days. I'm often asked about our deal flow, and it's always an interesting statistic because we probably pursue about 1 in every 15 loans that we are actually approached with. We're very specific as to the types of loans, the types of collateral, the strength of the borrowers that we do business with. So we spend an awful lot of time looking at loans that we wind up not pursuing. And I think at this point it's about 1 in 15 loans that we actually pursue. From a lead generation standpoint, something that I'm asked about quite often from people, we do a lot of business with existing clients. Some who are in this room tonight. We get a lot of direct referrals from attorneys, accountants, and professionals. Mortgage brokers send us an awful lot of opportunities to look at. Probably the biggest reason we pursue 1 in 15 loans is because a lot of mortgage brokers send us a lot of deals that we're not interested in. But we get a lot of leads from real estate, from mortgage brokers. We get business sent to us from real estate brokers. We get leads generated from marketing efforts, which we've undertaken, which include, of course, our website, email marketing campaigns, trade shows, LinkedIn, targeted phone campaigns and contacts, printed materials, networks, professional organizations. We do exhibit in a couple trade shows, and we attend a couple trade shows each year. But in our business, the actual opportunity to analyze and review a loan request can come from any one of about 20 different sources. Some familiar faces of Monroe Capital. I don't know, Bridget must have put this slide in, but here's 3 familiar faces. I always have a nice opportunity to introduce Paul, and this year I would like to just read a few things about Paul Adams. A lot of you know him, a lot of you have known him for a long time, but those of you who don't, I'm just going to read this. Monroe Capital was founded in 1996 by Paul Adams. Paul has more than 45 years of experience in the real estate and finance industries and has honed his ability to thoroughly understand the complexities of a project and provide practical financing solutions. Paul Adams, the team at Monroe Capital, and their wholly owned companies have facilitated in excess of $400 million in financing solutions throughout all facets of the commercial real estate industry. These funds have provided borrowers with the capital necessary to acquire real estate with an aggregate value exceeding $3 billion. Paul has vast experience as an entrepreneur, and throughout his career has built multiple private and publicly traded companies. Paul has an amazing and unique ability to understand and solve the most complex real estate and finance issues that we analyze on a daily basis. Paul is an avid bicyclist and strong supporter of charities such as Boys and Girls Club of Rochester, Bavona Child Advocacy Center, East House, Mary Carriola Children's Center, as well as other educational programs. It's always a pleasure and it's always an honor to get to introduce Paul. So at this time, I'm going to ask Paul to come up and take questions.
I'm not that good at public speaking. But thanks for coming, and we appreciate it. I couldn't do what I do. We couldn't do what everyone here does without everybody's support. And basically we're just, I think in terms of we work as a team. It's not like any one person, and everybody's a component to everything. But if anybody has any questions about anything, I'm here to answer anything you might think of, or if anybody wants curious about anything that they want to ask about what we do or how we do it, or what's happening with the company, or what our take is on anything. That's what I'm good at, answering questions. We always have, we're not necessarily always right, we question everything we decide on.
What were some of the challenges you encountered this past year?
Basically, we get a lot of applications for a lot of things, and the challenges really are comfort level with the quality of the deal. And we're tending to get more volume of applications, and so it's really you still have to process and give consideration to people, because I'm very picky, because it's got to be something that will work for the borrower. So it takes a little time to look at something, and even though it might sound good on paper, there might be reasons we might think it's not going to work for them. If it doesn't work for them, it's not going to work for us. So the challenge is really as volumes increase, we're getting more personnel to work with that, and more process and procedure. We're pretty good about how we do things, but even though we tend to know pretty quickly when we look at something, we'll take that extra step and a few more steps to try to understand. Maybe there's something we're missing. Maybe there's another reason, there's some other way to do it. Because I like saying, people have heard me say this before, they don't have to fit in a box with what we do. we'll draw a box around the property. And so that takes a little more effort than just, if we were a bank or a structured lender where you have to do it a certain way, it'd be easy for us, but then I don't feel pressure to invest. I would rather invest accurately and correctly where nobody gets hurt, rather than just put money in. So, that's sort of where the process goes. Any questions? Yeah.
As the new tax bill makes its way through the Senate and the Congress, does it affect us?
Well, I think, the thing is, it's hard to say where it's going. Our opinion is that it's just really hard to see where it's going. But, what I've met with a lot of people in different situations that want to invest in, even from overseas in the United States. I have a lot of contacts with people that I run into outside of Rochester, even though I've never lived more than 2 miles from where I grew up. And so when I'm talking to these people have to live and work throughout the United States. There's many communities like you see in Rochester that are changing, that they're growing in different ways. They're not the big corporate structured companies necessarily that are going to run the country and how people live. Not one employer that owns, the whole town. But the thing is, so there's always opportunity, there's always niches, there's always an opportunity within that. I think we'll always find that, whether would we invest in New York generally, or the coast generally, or in the West Coast? Not really, because it's such a volatile market. We might take secondary collateral, we might get involved with something, but it's not a primary area we look at. We look at the middle of the country and all the smaller cities, even Syracuse, Rochester, Indiana. It's like so. We're open. That people have to, no matter what the tax laws are, they still have to live, work, live somewhere, have a store, give services to where people live. So there's always opportunity for people to redevelop something. There's always opportunity for someone to buy something that someone else is distressed with. And we help people find opportunity and fund that opportunity. And usually, I'll tell you, if we don't do a deal usually in 2 or 3 weeks, it's probably not going to happen. We're a fast-moving operation, and we can execute quickly. And that's one of the reasons they'll pay a higher rate to us, because we can get something done. And when a borrower approaches us, and we say new borrower, they may say, "Oh, it's 16%." Well, I explain to them, it can be scary, it's ridiculous, it doesn't sound right. But if you look at what the cost of funds are compared to what you're making and whether it makes sense for the deal, it's a different approach. It's a portion of finance, it's a period of time. How many dollars is it going to cost to what the opportunity is? We've had situations where, unusual, but we've had situations as extreme as someone borrowed $4 million and within 3 weeks made $24 million on the property. So was it worth it to pay 16% for 6 months? No problem. He had to pay a minimum interest, and or we've had situations where we gave the acquisition money for the full, let's say a portion of it. They got some construction loan, we stayed in it, and they were able to leverage. I got a low rate on there first. We took ownership collateral in terms of assignment of their membership in the company, and they were able to have a blended rate. One time I had a nursing home that they owed $7 million. It was a brand new construction nursing home. It was built, and basically they were in technical default because they didn't get the occupancy levels. Not that they weren't paying, they were strong people, strong borrowers, because they were in technical default, no bank wanted another month. So they couldn't pay off the mortgage. But the federal government sold the mortgage to GE Capital at the time, and they bought it at a big discount with a swath of other mortgages. And these people came to me, they wanted to buy from GE and pay it off. GE was willing to sell it for $3 million there. So all of a sudden, even if they're paying a higher rate, they saved a lot of money. And on top of that, I worked it out where we did a portion, some other lender, hard lender, with us did it at a lower rate even than we charge. And I got the blended rate down to 11%. So we find ways to get it done for people, so that's why they keep coming back to us, as opposed to just ways to say no. So we come up with other ideas that are good. Grant?
Based on all of your due diligence, comment on Rochester County.
Well, it's funny. I grew up here my whole life, obviously. And, I used to grow up thinking, well, we were in a perpetual recession. So it didn't matter to us. We didn't have the volatility that some communities have. Really highs, really lows, really highs, really lows. It's like, what's going on in Rochester right now, it's hard for me to even comprehend the values that are here. So I tend to, when we lend, I tend to think, our organization tends to think on a lower valuation than, let's say, a lot of the banks would look from an appraisal point of view of what things are selling for, and the cap rates are, and the capitalization rates of valuation. We tend to think a little less, but it's strong in certain places. I mean, downtown is getting stronger. It's got a long way to go, but if you look at it 10 or 15 years ago, it was nowhere. It didn't exist. And now, what's it going to look like 10 years, 15 years from now? There'll be services, there'll be more life. I mean, we're not moving, let's say, affluent communities down North Clinton Avenue, but there are developments going down North Clinton Avenue and into Joseph Avenue, into the inner cities. Things are changing. I mean, it's just a matter of time that things will change. And maybe I'm a little optimistic, but I always think eventually that, Rochester is going to get better and better, not because of what it was, not what I grew up with, but some different development, different structures, smaller businesses.
Mr. Paul, is a potential investment. Is there any scenario that you think that there is push case scenario where you want to use the principal investment?
Well, I'll tell you, when I started off before I was a great young person, besides borrowing money at high rates, and back then they would take the title to your properties and lease it back to you for a year, and if you didn't pay them, they owned it. I mean, that's how bad it was. It's not legal anymore. But the thing is, with scenarios I ran into when I was younger, like I remember lending money to someone. And this doesn't happen now because we have a different structure. But back in the beginning, you had to make sure the taxes are paid. That goes with it. You got to make sure there's fire insurance, there's liability insurance. That can go. If they don't have it, it lapses. There's a fire, property's gone. The biggest danger when you're lending is someone changes the property on you without your knowledge. I had a situation at Alexander Street on Monroe Avenue when I was young, where solid lender, no problem, but he decided he was going to gut his 12 apartments and renovate on his own. And then he got cancer and died after it was gutted. So what was it worth when it was done? I had some other property, I got some of it, with real estate you get something back, but I effectively, I only got 50% of my money back. Has that happened in 25, 30 years? No, because what we have is structures where we check taxes regularly, insurance. Our largest lenders, majority of borrowers, the largest structural organizations that we lend to a repeat business. I like repeat business because we know what they're doing and how to do it, as opposed to one-offs. We do a lot of one-offs too, but the repeat business, we monitor them on a monthly basis, and they sign basically reports to us on a monthly basis what they're doing, and we go out and re-inspect. A bank is not going to go out as often, because they have so much volume, so much structure, and they stay within their regulations. But we go out, we really want to know what's going on. So we'll end up checking on things regularly, and we have short term. It's not like, I don't know what 5 years is going to be. I mean, I'm fairly confident apartments for the next 5 years are very solid. If you ask for 10 years, I don't know. It depends where interest rates go. It depends how lifestyles change. I don't think people are going back to the suburbs and they're going to buy single-family big lots to cut grass. The next generation doesn't think like that. I don't know. But I might be wrong. So we're open. So that's why it's short. Everything is no more than 1 to 2 years, and most loans are paid off within a year, I would say. Question?
What is your long-term plan for your company?
Okay. Well, long term, I'll tell you, I've structured everything from the beginning that everything is paid off within 2 years. The reason for that, I could get run over by a truck. Just be honest, you know, you don't know what's like to be. I'm someone that, it's something I invested my own money, I invested investors' money, and, you know, I used to do this with friends, and then got more formalized, bank money, because I got into bank money because with friends, not because I was looking to grow like crazy. It just keeps on growing because there's more opportunity, people are interested in borrowing more, it's a balancing act, getting funds or deals, and it's always balancing. But as far as the future, I structured everything to be paid off, and everything that's the worst case scenario is people get their money back. The best case scenario is that it keeps growing. We have a younger group of people that are coming up, that there'll be transition. But I don't want people locked into a transition they don't know or they don't want. So that's why there's always limits and ways to get out of anything that someone would invest in, whether it's a one-off or a fund. There's always a get out, you know, because if they don't like something, they shouldn't be stuck. And what I don't play golf. I'm not a country club guy. I ride my bike, so that's, you know, I'm reasonably healthy. So it's not that I've got this big ambition to build a big company, but I'm a responsible person. I got nothing else to do, so it's like, you know, so I just keep working. And you know, it's interesting solving problems. That's what we do. Is we're problem solvers. We're not so much business. You know, I don't call us bankers, even though that's what we effectively do. We solve people's problems and help them with finance. So, you know, that's what we look at the project. You know, that's how we help. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but so I'm healthy, by the way. I pulse is 47, my blood pressure is 110/70. But you never know. Anything else? Questions? Well, I really, but thanks for coming, and if you ever have a question, we're very available, and you can always call, and I'm able to turn up one more.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have a default ratio? Is there one?
Yes, we maximum level by law, and I'll tell you what, and it's like 24% in most cases. Well, it's 25, but I never go 25 because I want room to maneuver in courts if I have to. If I run into that, we haven't lost money in 20 years or plus, but we do have problems at times. I mean, and the problems usually we make out in all problems up till so far, we've made more money with the problems than we make with the regular loans. But I don't want to make money at someone else's expense or with a problem. Forget about that. It's just not a way to live. It's not a way to do business. It's not a way to build business. By spending money to just try to, you know, work through a problem, take advantage of something. But we know how to work through courts. We know how to work through aggravation for people. And you run a talk out when you lend money. You run a talk out to people. It doesn't matter what they sign. It doesn't matter what they agreed to. It doesn't matter what real estate is. If they want to be crazy, they're crazy. And bankruptcy courts we've dealt with in many states. And, but you know, it's just a process, and we end up making out better. But it's we get a 5. We just had one in New Hampshire. I'll tell you, we went 3.9 million. We ended up with $6.5 million. So it's like you can make a lot more money. That was a 5% on the principal, 24% default rate, and 16% on the rest of it. And during the period of time, I mean, it was, you know, we made out really well. But I don't want to make money doing that if we can help it. I mean, that's not the business model. That's the fallback worst case scenario. But yeah.
So with easy money and the way we have that, where are you looking for the next 12 to 24 months with rate increase? Is that in there?
Well, you know, as I said, there's always an opportunity for somebody somewhere. You know, it's like we just did the Cadillac Hotel. I mean, the Cadillac Hotel is something that's been a sore point for all development in downtown Rochester, but effectively by one of our borrowers wanting to eliminate it so he could add value to the rest of his properties and everyone else's. We help him get in there quickly because it was a quick situation. He'll redo it, redevelop it, and it'll be, but it'll help his other apartments. Even if he raises other apartments 5%, he'll have improved value with everything else, and because the Cadillac's not there anymore. And if people locally would understand what that is. You know, people up in the town won't. But it's you know, like a welfare place and a catch-up.
So then you can really use it a lot better than market.
Oh, yeah, well, you know what it is the
Right,
bank has
isn't
the,
this one of your?
yeah, I mean, that's a big asset, because what it is without, what will happen if something happens to me is growth is questionable. Pay and security is not as questionable, but growth is questionable. You know, because obviously I make final decisions on everything. It's not that I'm paranoid, but let's say this, I'd like to double check everything. And, you know, it's just, everyone has their ideas, everyone brings forth stuff. But if we see a deal, we've done deals, and I remember I did one deal in Houston, you know, it took 3 weeks. I mean, it just doesn't take a long time for us to do a deal. If we're not ready to do it, it's just a matter of their legal work and the lawyers team. We have lawyers in 25 states. And we don't have to do it with our small team in the city. We use outside organizations to help support our structure. We have law firms here from a lot of places that do closings for us, do due diligence for us. We have people that can do inspections for us, as well as us inspecting initially. And so it's not just what you see. We utilize a lot of organizations to help us maneuver into a lot of different locations. And,
So are these losses insured?
well, the thing is, it depends on the situation. I mean, like, let's say we have title insurance on property. So that means if there's any, we just had a situation in New Jersey, a perfect example. The guy transferred, he had a property that had transferred, just bought it out of, he said he inherited it from, it was part of his father's estate. It was long gone, and he ended up getting, deeded it over to himself out of the trust, and he wanted to borrow some money. He had a contract for $3.5 million sale, and he wanted to borrow $750,000 to get some liquidity before the sale. And then a couple months later, his sister sued and said it was a fraudulent transfer. But we had title insurance. The title insurance companies paid us all the money back. And then not only that, we're getting all our interest too. So it's just over time, you know. So, I mean, you have to protect yourself. You know, if it's real estate, it doesn't go anywhere. If we were lending money on widgets, I'd get nervous, you know. So, that's which I've done that before too, about widgets, but equipment when I was young, it disappeared. So, well, thanks for coming, and call anytime about anything we're here.